Welcome to Murray End. My name's Mark Machado. I'm joined by my cousin across the pond, Dominic Machado. I am joining you from London. Dominic is in the US. I said across the pond, that can mean anything. I mean, this is a very global show for a very global audience. I know there's people joining us from all corners of this planet. We're here today. We are gathered here today to discuss the first day of Sri Lanka's second test against South Africa. I can't pronounce the place where it's being played, but
formerly Port Elizabeth.
Formerly Port Elizabeth. It's not that anymore. I need to, ideally, I need to just go to South Africa and learn about the culture and learn about the different people and the different place names and all that jazz. I would love South Africa. Me and South Africans have a lot in common. We love barbecues and meat. We love cricket and rugby and football. And seemingly some South Africans also love cricket as well. If you're listening to us, if you haven't listened to us before or watched us before, hit us a follow, hit us a like. We're the Murray End. We talk about cricket, specifically Sri Lankan cricket. Follow the Sri Lankan cricket team. We've got other shows on this channel that look at the Indian side and also franchise cricket. And we've got loads of other content coming up in the next over the next 12 months as well. So do get involved. Also, if you're watching us, if you've been watching the Sri Lanka South Africa series and you want to leave us some comments and thoughts, please do. Dominic, let's start off with what your take is on a day that ended 269 for 7. With the host probably thinking they should be around the 350 mark, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would say it was a good day's test cricket. There were good periods for Sri Lanka and bad periods for Sri Lanka. There were some struggles, and then there were some real successes. They started off well. Asitha getting Tony Dezorzi, his first ball was a real good start. And then Kumara kind of came on and provided a point of difference early on. And they had South Africa at 44 for 3 early on the first morning. And then we kind of have this really good rebuild from Ryan Rickleton, right? This is a player who I know mostly as a T20 superstar, right? Someone who strikes in excess of 160, 170, and Temba Bavuma. And to be honest, the Sri Lankan bowling looked toothless for 20, 30 overs. And then all of a sudden they decide to employ this kind of short ball ploy to unsettle the batsmen or the batters. And it works. Vishva Fernando is all over Bavuma and he ends up getting out. He's all over David Bedingham, who is dropped twice, actually. But then eventually gets out to Prabhath Jayasuriya. And then we have, again, another South African rebuild where Verreynne and Ryan Rickleton, who, again, played brilliantly today, put on a 50, 60, 70-run partnership. But as the new ball came on, they were able to get shape and movement. And again, it was Lahiru Kumara providing a much-needed breakthrough. And then Vishva Fernando sneaking between bat and pad and getting the wicket of Marco Jansen to conclude the day. So I think Sri Lanka will feel happy where they are right now, especially given where they were about 2.5 hours before close. And I think they'll feel like they're really in with a shout this match.
Yeah, it's sometimes as fans, I think, because we're basically in our WhatsApp group in the kind of Murray End one, we would just go, need to break this, we need to break this, we need to break this, we can get them all out, we can get them all out. I wonder if actually Sri Lanka over the last kind of few seasons, when they've won test matches, there's always been a kind of moment when we've skittled teams out for kind of around the 200 mark or less than 200 runs. And actually, when a team starts to get over 250, we kind of think as fans, I'm not saying the players feel like this, we kind of think maybe this game is getting away from us. And actually, we've lost our patience. And so during the last test match in England, at the Oval, a game Sri Lanka won, I think at midway through the second or third day, I was sitting next to former England Test cricketer and Ashes winner Steve Harmison, and I was expressing frustration at the way Sri Lanka was playing, and Harmy was like, "No, that like what you he was like, I can kind of understand why you feel like this, why you think Sri Lanka aren't applying themselves and can do better. But for the guys on the pitch, the guys who have to like actually turn up and play, they'll be thinking they're in a good position. They'll be thinking we don't need to skittle these guys out instantly and imminently. We can kind of take a moment here. And ultimately in that test, Harbison was right?
Yeah.
Sri Lanka came back and won it. And I wonder if actually the frustrations that we had is because, you know, we've recently set ourselves a new low bar, 42. And we kind of sit in our minds are like, right, anything too far away from that is going to take the game away from us. When actually our boys are professional players. They've been all over the world several times playing cricket, and they would have gone to bed today feeling a lot better about this game than a lot of us have.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think also conservation of energy is something that's being considered. I kind of balked at the fact that Prabhat bowled in excess of 20 overs, plus you got 5-6 overs of DDS's spin. And on a first day South African pitch, that seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Right. That seems like excessive. But at the same time, if that's keeping Asita and Lahiru and Vishwa fresh so that when they come on and bowl, they're not just going through the motions, but they're actually being aggressive and have a plan to take wickets, then I think it's okay. It was definitely attritional. I think that's the adjective traditionally used to describe test cricket, right? Okay, we've had our first burst. Let's chill out for a bit and come back with another burst. And Sri Lanka did that successfully. I think that's the key, though, right? You can let the game drift a little bit if you come back and attack full bore at the end, which they did, right? I think where we run into problems is when you allow the game to be attritional and you don't end up taking any wickets, right? So if they finish the day 270 for 3, we'd be feeling really poor about this. A tactical question for you, Mark, I think, and this is something I've noticed, right? It seems like Sri Lanka remain more defensive in their field settings than most other sides in the world. Even with the new ball, you know, there's 2-3 slips in a gully. Whereas, you know, watching South Africa play against us, there's 4 slips, maybe 2 gullies. You watch other sides play, they're a lot more aggressive. And even when Prabhat was bowling, they were bowling kind of this negative line, right? Outside leg stump, hard to score off of, but you're not really a threat to get the batter out. So I was kind of curious about your point, your thoughts here. Yes, it's okay to kind of slow down, but are they maximizing their chances even when they're slowing down or even when they have good conditions to get those wickets?
So one of the kind of hallmarks of Sanath Sri Lanka is kind of it's not doing being slightly counterintuitive about things, right? So they talk a lot about, when you're in press conferences and when you listen to them, they talk a lot about not just doing stuff because that's a conventional way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Of kind of trying to find a Sri Lankan way of doing it, of kind of placing fielders where they think they need to do batting when they should be bowling, or being a case of Prabhat holds up at end on a day when no one thinks that there's going to be any joy in the surface for his type of bowling. And so I think it's almost like I personally, as a fan, I'm okay with all of these decisions as long as they can justify why they have made these decisions and why it's not a case of we're doing it just because that's not what people expect. Because I think that's also a bit of a silly decision. So my answer is I can't answer this until I know what I was going to say editorial justification, but what is the justification for it, right?
Yeah.
If they can come out and explain, and actually when you're in press conferences and you ask them the question, if you go, why did you do that then? They will know, like DDS and Sanath and the senior players will be able to answer those questions.
Right. And I think Prabhat's spell, right? The idea was let's try to dry up the runs and force them to play shots, right? And I think, you know, when you look at someone like Ryan Rickleton, he scored 100 off of 245 balls or something like that. And you kind of have to just pat him on the back and say, you waited it out, you played it out, and you got there. Temba, on the other hand, started getting a little aggressive in his 70s, right? And that's why the short ball ploy worked. They used it in combination with the leg stump line, right? And I understand that theoretically, but I think it just seems like more times than not, the conservative option might be gone for rather than the aggressive option. Like I can understand the sort of ploys and the tactics, but I think, especially early on with the new ball, I don't think you lose a lot if you're playing, if you pack the cordon a little bit more.
I'm think the problem they've got is we see what Prabhath is. It's a bit kind of chicken and egg, right? Because I think there, when we've been successful with Herath and Murali in the past, they've kind of held ends, but you've got to get to a point where they've played all around the world. And I think, is this his first time coming to South Africa? Is this the first cricket he's playing in South Africa? So he needs to kind of have a look at the surface and get a feel for what the surface is going to do. So they I know some people will be screaming, but he's 34, whatever. How old he is? I can't remember how old he is. How many more times is he going to get there? Actually, I think for a spinner, he's probably kind of not that. He's still probably got 7 or 8 years left, if not longer, I'd imagine. And I think he might, or hopefully, what we're all hoping is that he gets better with age and has a look at it. It's also, a lot of these, and I know this is a regular theme on this channel when we talk about Sri Lanka. I think a lot of this is because they are used to pitches that are so friendly to the players we have. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I am saying that it's making it more of a challenge when we go abroad and have to win, right? If you look at all around the world, you look at England, they prepare pitches that are very specifically for the types of players that they have. There is always calls for teams to do this, right? So it's the blessing and the curse of how we are doing our game. I do think, I know Rex had put a tweet out last night, and he's with the team, Rex Clementine, talking about that they might drop Prabhath and bring in another seamer. Milan might come in. I mean, arguably Milan's a better batter than Prabhath, even though Prabhath seems to be our kind of night watchman. So maybe that was part of the thinking as well. But they have had success with seamers this season. In Bangladesh Bangladesh was a big seaming series for our test players. And at the Oval, which I mentioned already, they won that without Prabhath in the side. They've kept him in, and they've got to, if you're going to have him in, you've got to use him, right? So that's the big question. For me, this test match in particular is really all about how are you going to bat. Two big questions looking at tomorrow morning are how many more runs are we going to give away? Let's try and get them all out for 100, under 300. Though, their tail probably is slightly better than ours when it comes to waving a bat about. And
definitely better,
definitely better. And what are our batters going to do? Because you've been crunching the data. You did a great piece in our newsletter, Dom, that doesn't sound like our batting is heading in an upward trajectory at the moment.
Well, it's interesting. So the piece was on batting in the first and second innings, right? Following on from 42. And actually, we're pretty good in the first and second innings, except when we play good sides away from home. And that's the situation we find ourselves in. We're one of the worst.
That's like me in exams. I'm pretty good at them, except when I have one.
Except when they're really hard, right? Yeah. And we have scored 0 first innings hundreds against South Africa, New Zealand, England, India, and Australia in those places over the last 5 years. And the funny thing is, if you actually look at the second innings, right, when conditions are getting harder, when everyone else's average across the globe goes down, ours actually go up. We are the best team batting in the third and fourth innings in those places, in those hard to play places. And we scored 500s. So that tells me that it's not a question of capability. It's not a question of the quality of our batters. It's digging in, getting that mentality, someone saying, doing what Ryan Rickleton did today and saying, I'm going to stay here. I don't care if it takes me 300 balls, but I'm getting to 100. I'm getting those runs and I'm moving the game along. And I think Mark, to your point earlier, the bowling strategy depends on being able to score runs, right? If you know that the other side is going to have 20, 30 overs where you're not really a threat to take a wicket, then you're saying, okay, we're going to try to dry up the runs, let our fast bowlers get energy and take wickets, and then we'll back our batters to get whatever score that is, right? You're not saying we're going to blast them out in 30 overs, right? That's kind of not the philosophy here. I think one thing we should do, though, speaking of those fast bowlers, we need to give our flowers to our man, Lahiru Kumara. We're all huge fans of him at the Murley end. He became, I believe, is it the fourth or the fifth? Fifth Sri Lankan fast bowler to hit 100 wickets. He's now third place all time. He passed Malinga and Vishva Fernando this morning. But I just want to highlight how good he's been this year. He's played 7 test matches. He's taken 28 wickets at an average of 22. And he has a strike rate of 35. Everyone's been talking about Asitha, who's been very, very good. But this year, he's taken 35 wickets at 23.4. So Asitha and Lahiru have both been phenomenal this year, both playing really well, and they've bowled really well in tandem together. And I think we need to show a lot of appreciation. And I think they're both 27. Fingers crossed, they stay healthy. We might have 2 seamers bowling at the same time who hit 200 test wickets. And only one man has ever done that in Sri Lankan cricket history, right? Chaminda Vas. But he had no partner in crime. So seeing those 2, they're 27, with all the talent, with all the skill in the world, and they're aggressive. Like, how awesome is their attitude? Mark, you talk about the attitude because I know you love it.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I mean, Lahiru Kumara, like big bloke. He just challenges every stereotype you have of Sri Lankan cricketers, right? Like big bloke. You can see he wears his emotion on his face. It's like, you're a batter and he gets angry at you, it's like, oh boy, like comes steaming in, hits that ball hard on the deck, bounces straight up at you. He's emotional. I just love the guy, isn't it? Like,
did you see the argy bargy he got into a little bit with Marco Janssen?
Yeah, he gets into argy bargy every game. I love it. Like, do it more. I'm always like, he needs to get angry. Sri Lanka, like, he is just pure fire when Sri Lanka get angry. When he gets angry. And I think both of them. I think Asitha has probably get more headlines than Kumara. But like people who know the game and who watch Sri Lankan cricket, they are talking about Kumara. Like,
exactly,
and they've been talking about him for a long time.
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 seasons. I actually think he's a kind of been a slight victim of kind of successive coaches. Not really knowing what to do with him, right? Because we've seen him play T20 cricket. He's had his moments in T20 cricket, but now we know this is his format. This is like when he dons those whites, like it.
I think he's a white ball bowler too. I don't think we need to limit him. I think maybe Asitha and Lahiru's roles should be flipped. And Lahiru should be, but again, we have enough depth so that we can use them where we need them. But I think the big point we're making is he's a point of difference. And as you said, he defies the expectations of a Sri Lankan fast bowler, right? Tall, lanky, with medium pace and can move the ball around a little bit. He's none of those things. He's big, burly, strong. I love seeing him go right through Markram's defenses this morning.
He's like one of those like traditional kind of Aussie fast bowlers, but he's got a Sri Lankan heart and soul, right? So he brings this kind of Sri Lankan fire and ingenuity to the whole thing. He's like a prototype Aussie, right? So their weakness and personality that you'd associate with them, and them not being able to get over emotional, obviously because he's Sri Lankan and he doesn't have that, right? He's much more in control of his game, and I think we're only seeing him right at the beginning of his he's just found his feet in international cricket. I know he's been around for quite a while, but I feel like he's much more comfortable now than we've ever seen him be, right? And that's why, like, oh god, we need to do a special on him.
Oh, we absolutely do. But like, just to make your point clearer, right? He's played 7 tests, taken wickets at 22. In 2000 last year, he played 2 tests. The year before that, he played 1 test. The year before that, he played 1 test, and his averages were 88, 52, and 75. So this year, you're 100% right. He's come into his own. He looks much more controlled. He's using that energy positively. He had that great year in 2018 where he went to the West Indies and South Africa and he lit everything up. But this year, I 100% agree with you, Mark. He's kind of saying, I'm here to stay. This is the mature version of me. And he's found that role, that change of the sort of first change bowler, where he comes in and he's just at you.
There's some great comments coming in about it. We'll get back to the Dimuth question in a bit, but Jason said Lahiru's matured over last year with his control over lines and length. CA's also said Lahiru is the bulldog. I imagine if you're a pair of bulldog parents, you get a little bulldog pup, you might even consider the name Lahiru. He must be an idol to
I disagree.
Man and like,
I've made this point on the newsletter. He's the water buffalo. He's Sri Lanka's national animal. He's charging in. You can't stop him. He's brute force, and he's going right through whatever's in front of him.
Jason's definitely right to say he's matured.
Yes.
It's like, when you watch a superhero film, and it's kind of an origin film. Yeah. There's always a moment when the hero or heroess gets their powers. And then there's always a bit where they just kind of try and figure them out and how they work and all that. And then there's a scene where they kind of figured out how to do it and what to do with them. That's the scene we're watching right now, right?
And he's the man for 2 wickets, right? Like you know who he reminds me of? And this is going to rankle some. He reminds me of Pat Cummins because he bowls in that same position. He's fast, but not like as fast as he was when he was younger. But he's just smart. He's at you. He always makes you play. And he takes wickets.
Dom, is there anything else we need to discuss? This is just a brief daily. If anyone's got any questions, put your comments in now because we're going to answer them. CA's question was, why do they let Dimuth play again? I mean, I can answer that quite simply because I don't think they've taken any other openers with them. But also
unless they want to open with Oshada, who has opened, but I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah. And also, I know the management are kind of high on the seniors at the moment. I know, like, we've talked a lot about how he's not been in the runs recently. Presumably, they think it's not that he's in decline, that they think this is a form slip. I also think there is an element of, and I don't think so they will think he's been one of those players that's got them to this point, this far. And therefore, he deserves to be in the side because that thinking does happen a lot in Sri Lanka. It happens at other teams as well. I'm not kind of pointing that out just for us. And I do think if we lose this if by the time Australia arrive in Sri Lanka in January and there is no chance of us making the London game, I think there'll be wholesale changes for the squad. Not wholesale, but I think 2 or 3 players might not be there who are there today. But if we are in contention, I think the squad will be almost identical, depending obviously on injuries.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll change much till we come out of contention. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Dom.
Yeah, my two thoughts. So quickly, Dimuth's run as an opening batter between 2017 and 2023, I think is among the best that we've ever seen from a Sri Lankan opening batsman. Period. Full stop. He was averaging well in excess of 40 in a time where not very many openers were doing it in a very difficult place. He's carried our batting. He's not been good this year, but he's averaging 32. He's scored 5 50s in 17 innings. The big problem, I think, is he's not turning those 50s, those 80s into hundreds, right? That's what he would really have liked to see. So I feel like they want to give him a chance. He has such a good pedigree. The other thing is a sentimental thing. This is his 98th test match, Mark. So I was saying on our last pod that he's almost surely going to play those Australia tests. If that's the last 2 tests he'll play, he'll get 99 and 100, and then he'll retire. I think that's my prediction. I think they don't want to take it away from him because he's served Sri Lankan cricket for so long and been so good. I think he deserves that. He doesn't deserve an unceremonious send-off.
And also, we've got to go to some cricket before the next ODI World Cup as well, right?
Yeah, I mean the 2027 World Cup. He's coming to South Africa to scout out the grounds, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Two more questions come in. Sharad has asked, does Vishwa seem like he was lacking on pace, energy today? I'll be honest with you, Dom. I was expecting a little bit more from Vishwa when he was in England and over here. I'm not quite sure he's kind of delivering what I was fully expecting. I think he will know that, and I think he'll feel like there's a lot more to come from him as well. That's the kind of impression I'm getting. This team could really, really do with a all-rounder who could bowl a bit of seam, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we want
that last time, right? It would make a huge difference. I think, Vishwa, I thought he was pretty good in the last match. He took 5 wickets. I think, the ball he got to end today's play was brilliant. A couple more of those and we'll be seriously in the game, right? He's a new ball bowler. I think that's one thing is he takes wickets with the new ball when it's moving around or when there's reverse swing. So I think he needs to be used very judiciously. And the big spell for him is tomorrow morning, first up, right? Because they will want to be at those South African tailenders as soon as possible. So I'm expecting a good show from him, right? And I think it's right to play him like as a left armer who can move the ball early on. You need that with Lahiru and Asita. I think it's a really good compliment. And the only other person who could do that is Dilshan Madushanka. And 1, he's an extremely valuable white ball asset. 2, he's been struggling a bit for form. So, it's not easy to just drop him in and say, okay, go do what Vishva Fernando has done.
Let's answer CA's question very quickly, and then I think we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back tomorrow, though. If you're watching and you've come across us for the first time, please do hit the subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And you do have a couple more minutes to leave any more comments that you want to make as well. CA has asked, are you guys watching the Under-19s Asia Cup? I haven't watched a lot of it. I've been following it, obviously. I know Sri Lanka have the semi-final against India tomorrow, and the winner will play either Pakistan or Bangladesh. I suppose kind of predictable semi-final berths, though Afghanistan might be in it depending on their batch. It seems like Under-19s have been doing quite well, though, Dom, right?
Yeah. Couple interesting storylines too. Little Sangha scored 100. In who was it against? It was against Nepal? Yeah, he scored 100 against Nepal. And then the other thing that's really cool is we have Tamilian cricketers, I think 3 of them in the squad from the north. And it's really interesting to see that Sri Lanka is now getting their talent from all over and that these players are getting exposure at the highest level of cricket. And we want to see their careers looked after and taken forward as much as possible.
Just a word on Little Sangha. I'm off the... Basically, I'm a little bit worried about how much pressure we put on the Under-19 guys, right? This happens every year. There's guys come in and they do quite well at Under-19s cricket. And then in Sri Lanka, normally they'll probably do quite well in schoolboy cricket, and then there's this huge amount of pressure that comes onto them. There's clamours to get them national team cap, like full senior caps, the minute anyone kind of goes out of form or whatever. And with Little Sangha, I mean, he's had a kind of presence in Sri Lankan cricket media since he was about 6 or 7. It's incredible. And I just... obviously, I want all the best for him. I want him to score every single run, but I'm also acutely aware that these guys are kids, and we kind of need them. They need time, and also they need to go. Every step up in cricket is massive, right? I've spoken to, and there's umpteen first-class players around the world who've had a go at international cricket and it's not worked out for them. And a lot of them have spoken out in books and stuff like that. So you just have to remember every step up is huge. I think. Going from playing against the best schoolboy teams in Sri Lanka to going and playing against India at an Under-19s international tournament, massive step.
It's very serious. I think I will say one thing that we've been doing well has been protecting these younger players. I think because there's enough competition around the national squad now, right? It's not just 11 guys who happen to be good enough. There's a set of 20, 25 guys who are knocking on the door as well. It gives these guys a little bit of time to grow. And we've seen that the first class to international cricket pipeline is a little bit better, right? Like Potham and Kamindu performed really well in first class cricket, and that's a sign that yes, they're ready for, not that they're ready, but that they can play international cricket. So there are ways that we can tell now, and I think more so than ever we have players who are devoted to their craft and ready to get better, and I think that's made all the difference.
Dom, shall we leave it over there? Obviously, good luck to the under-19 boys for their game tomorrow. We'll be back hopefully a little bit earlier tomorrow, hopefully.
Yes.
And also, I should say, if you watch this, I'm coming to Sri Lanka in about 10 days' time. So leave me your restaurant recommendations.
Wow, 10 days' time. I can't
probably. Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Probably. Well, actually, I think I'll be pretty much all over. Definitely Colombo. I'm going to try and get up to the T10s and Kandy as well, and I'll be spending a lot of time on various beaches as well. But leave me your best eats around Sri Lanka if you can. I'll be in Melbourne as well over the Christmas period, so leave me the best restaurants to go to in Melbourne. That is one of the best places outside of Sri Lanka to actually eat Sri Lankan food, and I'll be eating a lot off it. I'll have a car as well, so happy to drive. Right, I'll see you guys later. Follow us, leave us a subscription. Back soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.